Hello, I'm Mary V. Today let's talk about smooth bow changes. And when you're thinking about changing the bow, it's really best to have the smallest, most economical movement you can. If you're changing the bow every single time, using lots of arm, using lots of fingers, you're going to find it very difficult to keep that up. It's not very economical and very difficult to control that when you have to come to the heel. The heel is where most people have the problem, but it's quite a good idea to go to the middle and have a look at your changing bow action. In my case, the bow is very loose inside the hand, and the fingers are really rocking and following the change of movement. I'm not preparing very much to change with a lot of hand shape change. I don't think that's very economical. It sort of breaks down in different parts of the bow. But let's go to changing the bow at the heel. So it looks very similar to the way that I change the bow in the middle. Hand-wise, there's not much change there. But the biggest difference is that really in the forearm, I'm really carrying the bow a lot more at the heel. I'm carrying it, it's suspended from my arm, and I'm taking the weight of the bow off the string, and I'm really using my arm here to equalize the weight like this. Because the bow gets heavier and louder at the heel, as it comes up, the arm takes on more of the weight, right? So you can equalize the bow. So that's a very good one. If you can come onto the string from above, you can feel the weight of the bow like this. It's not very heavy at all. But what we want to do is equalize the weight of the bow with the lightest part. So we're trying to even it all up. So you can see that using a lot of movement at the heel is really doing yourself no favours. You're just making things much more difficult for yourself. If you look at the movement of the wrist and the action of the forearm, it's the forearm that takes the weight of the bow, and it's the wrist that creates the cushioning. Right, so those two things happen simultaneously, and the fingers are simply following in a rocking motion rather than the fingers moving a lot like that. That's too much. All that moving is just going to be far too much at the heel especially. So one of the best ways to learn how to change the bow at the heel is with this rhythm. So you can see how high my forearm was because I was really lifting and carrying the bow. It's very suspended from my forearm, and I'm simply rocking my fingers backwards and forwards using my wrist. See, the more movement you have with your wrist and fingers, the more you affect the straightness of your bow. it ends up doing this, right? And that affects your sound. So you need to practice in front of a mirror. That's one of the best exercises I know to familiarise your arm, your forearm, with what it needs to do in the lower half in order to change the string. Try and keep the bow speed exactly the same as you're going to the heel, and don't speed up, which is something that people tend to do. So the other thing is that you can think about the surface, the contact point, but when you're coming to the heel, it's a good idea to change your focus to your forearm, right? Just think about your forearm and see if that helps. So there's a stroke called portato, and it's a very useful one to get the balance right between what your fingers are doing, what your wrist is doing, and what your forearm is doing. So portato is carrying the note through without stopping the bow. So there's a little restart every single time you play the next note, but the sound doesn't actually stop. Now portato really develops your forearm, your wrist and your finger action, because the bow is loose within your hand and yet it's highly controlled. So portato, as you can see, is led very much by the forearm, and the fingers and wrist are really sort of following it, and you're sort of making a movement without stopping the sound. So in this case, the way that portato is great is that it gives you exactly the feeling that you need to change the bow at the heel. In portato, you're using your forearm correctly. You're holding the bow up and controlling the weight of it on the way up and the way down, and that's exactly what you have to do at the heel. So your concentration can go from the contact point to your forearm. In fact, do some strokes thinking about your forearm. See the difference it makes when you transfer your concentration from one thing to another to help you. So when you're playing a piece, you can suddenly think about your forearm to help you change the bow at the heel. So there's some really nice exercises to help you develop the action of your forearm, wrist and fingers to get control of the weight and speed of your bow in all different parts of the bow, especially changing at the heel, because you're already doing that in portato all the way up, and it's just the same at the heel if you transfer your concentration to your forearm. So I hope you get on well with that, and I'll say bye-bye for now. Bye.